Welcome, High Vibe humans. You are listening to the Golden Guyan Adventure podcast. Hey, all you High Vibe humans, Breezy here, and welcome to the Golden Guyan Adventure podcast. Today's show is brought to you by the letter N, which stands for the New Earth. We're going to talk about newness coming down the line for you. But before we jump into that, this show is dedicated to the evolution of consciousness on this planet by sharing empirically supported scientific information in order for you high vibe humans to make informed decisions about the world around you. Now, I like to call attention to three themes. First is health. This can mean anything from mental health to physical health. The second is light, and this encompasses metaphysical, spiritual, and the conscious connection, such as angels, meditation, or the meaning of life. And then the last theme is the fight. It encompasses social justice and political issues. This refers to the human systems that we are all a part of, and we talk about how to integrate this information into our personal realities. So, we're going to cover today's topic, which is New Earth, the world that we wish to see. What do we wish to pull into reality? And then we're going to ask the angels to weigh in on the energy of today's topic. Now, my vision for this New Earth. We're going through a novel pandemic, and that is changing how we interact with each other. That is changing how businesses operate. Many things are involved in creating a new world. And so my vision encompasses three tenets. A lot of people have like 3 or 4, 5 principles that they generally want to build a new world on. So I encourage you to think about some principles that you might want to see in a new world. What would you want a society to build their value system around? I would like to see a society that is sustainable, that embraces cultural communities, and that has intra and interpersonal understanding. So let me break it down for you. My vision about sustainability is looking at the macro. We're looking at the planet as a whole. We're looking at the ecosystem that we live in. And then we use technology and science together to create sustainable structures. Now, when we look at the macro, we can look at the systems, we can look at the ecosystem, and then we have to go to the micro. We have to go to how we affect those systems on smaller levels, and what changes we can make at those levels that will lessen our footprint, so to speak. So I'd like to see a future community that is sustainable. When I talk about what is the world that we want to see, I think about the political and socioeconomic struggles that we're going through currently. Especially in the United States, it's an election year, and the president we have currently is, in my opinion, not fit for the job, and is causing a lot of division. Which brings me to my next point. The world that I want to see is a world in which we learn from each other's differences. We acknowledge each other's differences. We respect each other's differences. And we don't prevent others from participating in their culture within reason. So I hope that we can become a community that embraces cultural diversity and sees it as a strength, sees it as a tool that can be utilized, because different cultures will bring many solutions to the table. We can have new architecture. We can have new ways of approaching medicine when we embrace other cultures and when we are open to learning from other cultures. So the idea that cultural community can really be pulled into this new world, I'd really like to see that. I would. And I know that many of you out there would too. Especially in the spiritual community, us starseeds have always been open to learning about different cultures, learning about the history of humans in general and how humans evolved on this planet. We are open, and I would like to see a planet that acknowledges our historical past and how it brought us here and how it brought us these new ideas that mean we are one. The idea that we are one. What does that unity mean? What does it look like? It looks diverse, like a puzzle piece, or it looks diverse, like a field of flowers. The entire field isn't homogeneous. There is difference within that field of flowers, and it looks beautiful. So the idea that we are all one, and in that oneness, we are all different, and it is beautiful. The next point that I would like to see in this new world is intra and interpersonal understanding. The idea that we are all individuals with individual experiences that have informed our perspectives about life. The ability to have inner understanding of our own values, how we display those values, how we live by those values, having an understanding of our own boundaries, having an understanding of how we can strongly communicate our boundaries to others, and also cultivating a culture that empowers one to understand our triggers. When we experience trauma in our life, or when we experience negativity, it can become associated with certain stimuli in our environment, right? So if every time, when we train dogs, we use this with a shock collar, right? If the dog barks or if the dog goes too far off of the property, it gets a little shock, and it trains them to not go that far. And sometimes they have adverse reactions in which they become afraid of going across the property line. And similarly, if we have something traumatic happen to us, we can associate it with different stimuli in our environment. It can be a sound, a smell, an object, a phrase, a keyword phrase. And understanding our own triggers empowers us, because when we know a trigger has presented itself in our environment, we can immediately reach for our self-care toolkit. We can go for those tools, those coping mechanisms that can help us get through that experience. That only happens, though, if we understand what our triggers are and our coping skills that complement those triggers. And if there is a culture or a society that values that, then it'll teach children in school how coping mechanisms. It'll teach children life skills in school. When we have our own inner understanding, which is the intrapersonal understanding. And then interpersonal understanding is similar to empathy, the idea that we can understand that others have boundaries, we can understand that others have values that might be different from our own, and they might be acting on those different values. That others have triggers, and sometimes when we are faced with somebody who is angry, when we are faced with somebody who is experiencing jealousy or some sort of negative emotion, we have to remind ourselves that they might be triggered as well, and that their triggers are not my responsibility. It's not my responsibility to soothe somebody else past a certain point. We can always be there for other people. We can always be reassuring and hold space for others. However, there's a difference between giving your power away. And so in this new world, I hope that we bring in that interpersonal understanding. The idea that people are different from us, and we have to find ways to compromise and respect these differences. And this requires communication. This requires the understanding that conflicts will occur and that it's okay, because through conflict we learn from each other. We learn when values are different. We learn when boundaries are being violated through conflict. And conflict doesn't have to end negatively. We can come out of an argument with the understanding that just like me, this person also wishes to be happy. They also wish to be healthy, and they also wish to be free from pain. I like to use that mantra when I am facing somebody who is irate or has different values from myself, or is just being negative towards me. I like to remind myself that just as I wish to, this person also wishes to live in happiness and peace. I want to hear from you, High Vibe humans. I hope that you let me know what your vision is for this new world that we want to bring in. So there is a piece, the healthy piece of this podcast is talking about this novel pandemic and the changes that have taken place because of this. I noticed that when the lockdown first occurred, that people actually got outside more. People actually started to exercise more, which was amazing. Bikes sold out. I know that home gym equipment is selling out, that there are waiting lists for that. So people took it upon themselves to increase their health. I saw lots of people walking, and that's what I did too. I got out and did some socially distant hikes, went on some socially distant bike rides, and did some socially distant yoga in the park. And that was fulfilling. That was one way that I could help ease my mind. Because I know that quarantine and all of its various forms has affected my personal form of expression. It has affected my mood. It has affected my future and how I see my future playing out. And in order to take care of myself, I reached into my self-care toolkit and I found some people to do some socially distant yoga with. Shout out to Lindsay, Luna, and Jay Rose for hanging out with me and holding space with me while we were going through this novel pandemic. I am in good health, so you High Vibe humans can rest assured that everything is completely fine other than those emotional ups and downs. I am taking on new clients, and I do have a pandemic special that ends in December. So I hope that you take advantage of the pandemic special and visit goldengaian.setmore.com to schedule your free consultation. How has the quarantine affected your form of expression? I know that I took it upon myself to make clothing, make jewelry. I started to get into glass blowing a little bit. I also made a collection of candles that you can find on my shop, goldengaian.com/shop. And that was helpful for me to put my energy into new projects, to busy my mind learning something new instead of worrying about the past or worrying about the future. Content creation has always brought me joy. And if you follow my YouTube channel, you know that I dabble in various forms of expression. So I hope that you have utilized your time in quarantine to stay healthy in any way that you can, whether it be through exercise or creative expression in some form. Now, what is the light connection to this, the spiritual connection? Like I said, quarantine has given us time to reflect on ourselves, to reflect on our health goals, reflect on the trajectory of our life. And I turned 30 this year during a novel pandemic. Talk about a Saturn return. Usually a Saturn return is where you feel like your whole life is being tossed around, uprooted, new things coming in, old is being tossed out. It's very tumultuous period of life. Everything feels like it's getting turned upside down, which seemed to be heightened by the coronavirus. My partner and I were going to take a trip out to California, and as we were driving there, we ended up having to turn around and move all of my stuff out of the place that it was in. Very, very abruptly. And you can tune into that on my vlog channel. You can watch that whole story unfold in real time. We had planned so many stops. We had planned to go to Las Vegas. We planned to go to the Karis tree, which is in California, which is a sacred site. It's special to me. And we were going to do meditations. And we're going to postpone that trip. It's going to happen. However, this time, it was a lesson in forgiveness. It was a lesson in patience. And it was a lesson in what it means to truly commit to a vision. You know, I've always wanted to go to California, but I never found the time or the money. And this time I thought I did. However, there are a lot of unfinished business things that I realized I want to get ironed out. There are a lot of things that if I go on this trip, I'll probably want to do it for a month or so. And if I'm going to do that, there are some loose ends I need to tie up. So the universe said, all right, if you want to do this trip, you better be serious about it. You better get your life together. You better sell everything that no longer serves you and really commit. And that's what I did. You can follow that again on my YouTube channel. For now, let's move on to the social justice connection. The don't give up the fight. That California trip, that was me fighting to keep my sense of adventure. I wanted to fight that, to keep that feeling of being alive, because all of the festivals got canceled, and I needed something to feel like I was on an adventure. The lesson that I learned, though, is that you can find adventure right where you are, and that I need to practice patience and plan this very specifically, because I want to accomplish certain goals with this California trip. I am also a person of color, and the Black Lives Matter movement just blew up because people were home. People were free. They were available. They had time to research, to find out, to go out and learn from other people. And as I grow older and I watch the change in our culture, I am hopeful. I have a lot of joy within my heart for the future and for the kids that are learning so much through the internet and through social media. I hope that those people who are on the opposing side of Black Lives Matter are able to open their hearts to see what the fight really is about, and that it's not putting Black lives above anybody else, but the idea that when we look at history, when we look at what our country was built on and how we got to this point, there are certain things we need to acknowledge because they've been revealed, and they're asking to be healed. So my heart is becoming more resilient, and I'm figuring out how to use my voice in this fight. Because I am half Black and half white, I've had experiences throughout my childhood and my adulthood that have shown me that racial bias is real, and that it is something that we actively confront in order to heal it, in order to weed it out, and in order to allow it to be less of a negative influence and more of an empowering influence. I believe that when we acknowledge our racial bias, that is when we can have the power to choose something different, something new. So how do we create this new world, this new earth that we wish to live in? How do we incorporate all of these new ideas? Well, first, we have to get our minds right? We have to work on ourselves, because the macro is like the micro. The micro is the macro, and the macro is the micro. And I truly believe that just outside of you is a reflection of what is inside of you. So when we get our minds right using positive affirmations, using mantras to create new neural pathways in our brains, we create new ways of thinking, which end up creating new behavior patterns. And those ripples turn into waves. We can also get our minds right by using calming activities. Activities that help you find your center. Whether it be meditation, running, bike riding, yoga, painting, dancing, or any other activity that brings you to a place of calm, that brings you to your center. This will help us get our minds right, especially when we are faced with conflict. Then we can bring in this new world by envisioning. Just through the practice of envisioning it, using visualization meditations, where we try to see what it would feel like, what it would look like to live in this new earth. visualization meditations call in that energy. And again, you're creating neural pathways when you rehearse these visualizations. It allows you to unconsciously choose behaviors that'll pull you towards that vision. Speaking of visions, you can use a vision board in which you create cutouts from magazines to create this new world that you wish to see. And these act as a reminder. They act as a clue, as a trigger for your mind, so that when you see it in the environment, you go towards it. You make choices that pull you towards it. So envisioning this new world by using visualization meditations or vision boards is another way that we can actively create it. These are actionable items that we can actually do. And another thing is we need to connect with one another. We need to connect with individuals who are also working towards these same goals. When we visualize this world we wish to see, again, we're going to end up speaking it at some point and speaking to others about it and connecting with those other people who see that same world. Thus, those ripples create waves, which start to create structure and give this new earth a platform to really incarnate itself. So how do we create this new world? We got to get our minds right, we got to envision it, and we got to connect with the other people that feel the same way. So at this time, I'd like to connect with the angels and tune into them for a second. And we can do so together by taking a few deep breaths in order to find our center. So at this time, I invite you to exhale the breath that you're on and inhale deeply. And as you exhale, you open up to everything that's for your highest good, taking another deep breath in, exhaling slowly, relaxing your shoulders, relaxing your stomach, taking another deep breath. And this time as you exhale, we ask the angels, our guides, and all the beings that are here for our highest good to come in and to show us what it is we need to know at this time. At this time, Archangel Michael is coming in, reminding us that we are safe. Oof, this is definitely important energy, important message that is coming in right now. You are safe, Archangel Michael says, with his sword of truth. It is ablaze, it is burning. His sword is on fire because it is going to cut away everything that no longer serves. This fire burns all the negativity. It will burn away those tendrils, those ropes, those energy ropes, those hooks that are in us from other people. Archangel Michael will cut those other people away from our energy, freeing up our energy, allowing us to work on it. It's important for us to work on our energy because we're going to step into our communities as leaders at this time. Archangel Michael has a shield that he reassures you he will use to protect you from the naysayers. So be confident. Stand up for your community. Speak your truth for the starseeds, for the light workers, for all the souls that have incarnated on this earth and have forgotten that we are all one. Become a leader in your community, preaching the message that Christ's light is coming back. The I am consciousness is here. It is not going anywhere. You are here to express something, to step into your power. Archangel Michael is reassuring us now that it is the time to assemble. It almost feels like an Avengers call, a call to action. like we're cosmic superheroes of some kind. This is a powerful moment in human history in which division feels like a very strong energy. But there are many among us who know that the division is only an illusion, and that the anger and pain come from the past, that it comes from a place that needs to be healed, and that we are ready, willing, and able to help in that healing process. So, that was a powerful message. Thank you for tuning in for that, for being here for that. And thank you, angels, for sharing that message with us. The idea that each one of us is an important seed. We're an important light on this planet, and we need to blaze bright at this time. We need to unapologetically be ourselves and acknowledge everyone's pain and suffering that we all bear, and that we are all here to help that heal and to move through that together. We are spiritual beings having a human experience, having a physical experience, and we're learning lessons together. So we must not forget compassion, patience, and forgiveness. Just as I wish to, this person also wishes to live in happiness and peace. So thank you, angels, for sharing that message with us today. Thank you, High Vibe humans, for tuning in and for making this podcast a part of your routine, a part of your healing adventure. I really want to share so many projects with you. So for now, I'll just let you know that you can find out about my secret project reveals on Patreon. I have a low supporter tier level available for you High Vibe humans that just want to support me, that just want to send me a coffee once a month, that just want to send me a little shout out once a month. I have that available for you. And then if you want to find out about all of the cool projects that are coming up, all of the giveaways that are going to be announced on Patreon before they're announced on my Instagram, you can join at the Little Stars or the Starseed level, and that comes with your option of having contact with me. So check out those packages, find a package that works for you on your healing adventure, and I hope that we get to connect. I truly do. So visit my Patreon, patreon.com/breezyspreadlove, and I look forward to hearing from you and seeing your comments. Thank you to Bring Me to Life Network for creating a space for High Vibe humans to connect. And again, thank you, listeners, for tuning in, for sharing this podcast with somebody that you think will benefit from it, and for being a light in your community. Again, if you want to schedule a free consultation with me, you can visit my link, goldengaian.setmore.com. That's golden, GOLDENGAIAN.SETMORE.com. Be sure to check out my webpage and Instagram for more High Vibe items and upcoming events. I look forward to seeing you High Vibe humans in the future, and until next time, stay healthy, stay light, and don't give up the fight. Breezy, out.